Hello Pisces, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for August for the Sun or the Ascendant. Going to give you the broad themes to look out for. Please stay with me. I will then give you in much greater detail the key influences impacting on your zodiac sign in particular. Now, as you start this month, the Sun and Mercury are in house 6. It's all about virtue, a very kind of Virgoan theme, but of course they're actually located in the sign of Leo. So you can use the energy, the warmth and the passion of Leo to actually, get a bit fitter, maybe think more about making the basics in your life run that much smoother. But there is an electric connection at the start of this month in house 3 as Mars, Uranus and the North Node all come together. The third house is about our everyday interaction, can be about technology, short journeys, can also be about our relationship with neighbours and siblings. Mars is the planet of passion, so in this sector it wants to articulate a message, and Uranus is quite a rebellious, restless influence linking with Mars, and the North Node is very much about the karma that we're inheriting from our past actions. So it's important to choose your words with care at the start of this month, because you could be more impulsive, but also tucked away in your 12th house, the retreating Saturn is actually in a square with this cluster right at the start of the month. And also Mars and Saturn are broadly in a right angle through to the 12th. And I think this means that although the Sun and Mercury initially are asking you to think about how things work and all the rest of it, there could be quite a lot of nervous energy, and it may be linked to some psychological themes, maybe some subjects that are a bit sensitive, linked to your past. Maybe there are parts of your situation where you're feeling a bit detached from others, and despite the fact that you may be trying to reach out and connect, possibly through social media, it may all feel a bit of a slog, and that can have somewhat of an impact on your physical vitality. And also because the Sun in Leo goes opposite Saturn from the 16th, from the 12th, through to the 17th, that could be a phase where you need to just watch your vitality too. And then later in the month, once Venus arrives in Leo on the 11th, it goes face to face with Saturn in the last week. So all of these things are seeing you having to juggle the practical side of life, house 6, with the more emotional, spiritual and more psychological areas of your situation, house 12, with Saturn in reverse. So I think there can be quite a lot of chit chat, but how do you pick your way through this? That's what I'm going to help you with. So please stay with me. If you would like to ascend above this horoscope broadcast and understand how serious astrology can impact on your situation, if you give me 3 pieces of your personal birth data of time, date and place, I can give you a roadmap that can guide you for the rest of your life, and also a 12-month personal forecast. All of this strictly based on your data, no 2 charts the same, 30% off with my special offer. Finally, I've crashed through the 100,000 subs mark. Thank you if you've subscribed already, and for all your watches. If you've yet to do so, I'd be grateful if you did now. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. Please stay with me for your in-depth forecast. So Pisces, as you come into this month, you are being asked to be a bit more disciplined, essentially. House 6, where Mercury and the Sun are located, is to do with virtue. But it doesn't mean to say you can't have fun. And that's where the Leo dimension comes in. So if you want to, do some decluttering at home, you can turn the radio up loud and just really get into it and get that buzz of adrenaline going to shift out things that no longer serve a useful purpose. Then again, you may want to use the sounds in order to do some more vigorous exercise. If you're someone who's very virtuous about home organisation and exercise already, your marginal gains could come around being more conscious of the food you're eating. That's not to say that you can't have some treats and enjoy some calorific goodies, but perhaps understanding more about energy returns and fat content and this kind of stuff. It may not sound very sexy, but the big energy in house 6 this month is asking you to take care of the physical plane, because the more spiritual and emotional side of your situation is also coming under scrutiny as well, with a powerful full moon which occurs on the 12th. But that full moon in Aquarius, where of course you have the retreating and rather restrictive Saturn, that is in a T-square with the electric energies of Uranus in your 3rd house. That's the nervous system. Where Saturn and the moon is the psychological, emotional and spiritual stuff, and where the sun is, and initially Mercury, to be replaced by Venus on the 11th, is where the physical stuff is. So if I just tell you this honestly, this is what is out there, it means that you have the information to work on this. To be honest, Jupiter, your traditional ruler, although it's in a retrograde this month, it's still in your 2nd house, which can be good for finance. It's also forging a magical link with Venus from the 16th to the 20th, a trine. And by getting more organised, you can actually start to feel that your foundations are firmer. One of the things with Venus and Jupiter, it can see our discipline dip, because we want to take the easy route. We want to have some fun. But, you know, if you are up for the challenge of trying to make your life work a little bit better in some kind of way. So if you're someone, as I said before, who feels that you have got things working very well, one of the areas that I could raise your attention to is, are you working too hard? You know, are you being too self-sacrificing? Pisces people are very complex. Some Pisces people can be sacrificing to the point that you almost become invisible yourself, or you invest so much of yourself to help others, you lose a sense of looking after your own well-being. And there are other Pisces people who can actually be so cool and detached, because the fish in the bottom of that river, that cold trout looking up, can be very detached. That maybe is that you're just thinking about the physical dimension and not staying in touch with your own emotional and spiritual needs. So Pisces people are a very, very varied group, but you can give a lot when you really are invested. So I think this month's energies, initially anyway, is saying, how well are you looking after you? As much as you can, you know, be conscientious at work. You may look for a new job this month, especially if you feel that you've given so much to a situation that people are no longer really being mindful of your sacrifice, or how willing you are to support others when maybe covering colleagues, or even within friendship groups. If you're always the person picking up shopping for someone who's going through a bit of a bad time, that's so lovely. But it is important sometimes to set our boundary, and I think Saturn may be uncomfortable for you in the 12th house retrograde, because that is the area of life that we often don't want to look at. But what it does is also give you an opportunity to really become much more conscious of where you need to say no, where you need to set your boundary, because you can be so helpful to others. But that link between Mars and Uranus on the first day is very electric and very restless, and maybe is also you'll decide to send, you know, a message to someone or have a conversation with someone where, because of the link with Saturn, you'll actually tell them something that you've been feeling or thinking about very deeply, and suddenly you'll tell them quickly and they could be absolutely amazed. So I think a few revelations are possible this month. In tarot we have the High Priestess, which is often where a secret's revealed. It wouldn't surprise me if you revealed a secret this month, or someone told you something that you're not necessarily expecting. But I think once the Sun travels on the 23rd into your opposite sign, you can start to really make sense of it. But there's a lot to tell you about that occurs before then, because from the 12th to the 17th, the Sun is in opposition with Saturn, and that 5-day period could be one of your lowest energy phases of the whole year. At the start of the month, it may be almost like you have too much nervous energy and find it very hard to sleep. By that point in the month, your physical vitality could be really sensitive. The 16th to the 20th, however, that link between Venus and Jupiter is really lovely, and maybe that declutter could free up some money. You could sell off some stuff you no longer need. Perhaps there's a couple of bikes in the garage, or you've got something that you just don't use, and by freeing up the space, you actually will get greater energy into your home. Because we've moved twice in the last year, and we had a big build on the first property, we had to sort of really empty out the house. And it's amazing that if you do empty things out, how much it feels different. The energy really does change, and it can be very liberating. Now, because you can be very sentimental, because you're a mutable sign, and often think nostalgically about the past, there may be some things that you're very reticent to shed because they're very much part of your history, and that's something that I really respect. But sometimes even with things like that, it can get to the point where we've just got so much stuff that it's inhibiting the available space we have. So whether it's emotional stuff or private stuff that you've kept to yourself, very personal issues that you ventilate this month, or it is the physical space you change this month, I think it can be very helpful. And I have to say that from the 20th, over the next 8 months, the chances of you moving are radically increased. And this could be even if you've been relatively content in the home that you've had, even up to this point, because Mars burrows its way into the sign of Gemini. Gemini needs quite a lot of mental stimulation, but you're a sign that can at times need to retreat a little bit and recharge, which I can really relate to. In Draconic astrology, my ascendant is in Pisces. Draconic astrology is the more spiritual astrology. So that need to retreat, recharge, and just have some time where it's very peaceful and calm is very much part of your nature. But Mars is a real hustle bustle influence, as you know. So once it moves into house 4 for you, house 4 is where we live, can be sharing emotional stuff, family stuff, but it's where we need security. And Mars in house 4, or the sign of Cancer in a natal chart, can be protective but also defensive. So if you're someone who's got a tender situation at the heart of your life, you may find yourself being a bit more prickly from now through to the 25th of March next year. Why such a long time? Well, Mars usually takes 6 weeks to go through each sign, but in this period of time, it's 8 months because of a retrograde, which begins on the 30th of October. So this is extraordinarily rare, but Mars is about thrust and it's about desire. And if you're not quite happy where you're living, and you do feel that all you do is work, retreat, rest, and you want to live in an environment which is more interactive, the Gemini influence, then that could see you physically change your place that you're living, or even physically change the structure. So you may make it bigger, build an extension, put a new bathroom or kitchen in, because Mars is impatient for action. The 23rd, though, sees the Sun go into your sector of relating. And also, of course, briefly, it joins up with Mercury. And I should say that from the 20th to the 25th, Mercury forges a really outstanding link with Pluto. If there's something that you need to talk over with a friend, or you want to think about your future plans, your long-term future plans, this would be a great time to get some advice. But then on the 24th, Uranus slams on the brakes and goes into a retrograde through to the 21st of January next year. Because Saturn's already in a retrograde, this is why for pretty well the rest of this year into December, they are within 3 degrees going to be in a right angle, repeating what we had last year on 3 exact occasions. and what we had at the start of this year. And for you, I think it generally means that stuff that's delicate, that's tricky to think about, and it might be linked to your immediate neighbourhood, it could be linked to some of your ideas. There can be a tension there, and it can be a psychological tension, and the retrograde is asking you to think about this much more deeply. But on the 26th, Mercury moves deep. It goes into the 8th house. If you need to think about not what people are saying, but what they really mean, this will help you to really get cooking on gas. It also forges a great link with that Mars position. So if you are thinking about a property transaction, the last phase of this month can be important for you. Now on the 27th, we have a glorious new moon in your sector of relating. If you want to reset how you link with others, this is a fine time to do so. But Mars is squaring this new moon, which brings an element of potential frustration, impatience, or urgency. So you may want to reach out to someone that you've been actually reticent to contact, yet Venus in house 6 then goes into that opposition with Saturn, which is really, really difficult, to be honest. When Venus is opposite Saturn, the coldness of Saturn squeezes the warmth and the ebullience of Venus. So if there is any chink in any kind of relationship, whether with a colleague, a line manager, a boss, a friend, a neighbour, or a romantic context, it's probably going to reveal itself at the end of this month. But because the new moon is there with the passion of Mars, I think as you come into September, the first 2 or 3 weeks can be a time when you can really get on the front foot about relationships. And a lot of this month really, I think, is getting in touch with some of the things you don't want to look at or you're not quite conscious of, balancing the physical dimension with the spiritual and psychological dimension, because astrology, or knowledge of it, is just a process of rebalancing. We need to rebalance all the time, flex to deal with different planetary influences, which helps to keep us straight. But I think at the start of this month, your nervous energy can be quite on edge. So rest and recuperation, often part of your plan, is still very important, but I think you do need mental stimulation as well. And there can be some important messages, exchanges and information that comes to you this month that can change your outlook quite radically, but particularly around where you work, where you live, your emotional and physical health, and finally your relationships as the month comes to a close. So August is really a mega month.